The Suicide Squad is due for release this Friday in the US, and after seeing the movie a week early in the UK, I have many thoughts on James Gunn's latest superhero film. Watching this movie in IMAX was a blast from start to finish, but there's many other reasons why this latest DCEU project is one of the best we've seen in years. And it doesn't just whet my appetite for more films like this, but it also makes me even more intrigued over David Ayer's cut of Suicide Squad and how creative control can really elevate a production. In this video essay, I'm going to be touching on this, but primarily focusing on why I think The Suicide Squad is a great DCEU and comic book movie. But if you want to keep up to date on any of my future content on DC's latest films, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my thoughts on why The Suicide Squad is great. So just this year so far, DC have, in my opinion, released the two best comic book movies to come out. Both are uniquely different from each other, but excel at bringing two directors' visions to the table. The Snyder Cut, in my eyes, was a film that gave us the more accurate version of that film, allowing room for the story to breathe and characters to be fully developed. On top of this, it just showed us what can happen when a director like Zack Snyder is given a lot more control over what he's creating. Now with The Suicide Squad, we've got a film that equally has its director's fingerprints all over it, even if it's a completely different type of film. And this is the kind of respect that fans and filmmakers have been wanting Warner Brothers to undertake when it comes to their comic book movies. We know that the execs are changing at the studio with the Discovery merger, and maybe this is the beginning of a fresh new period for them. And The Suicide Squad further builds on this point by delivering a film that doesn't hold back with its strange and uniquely crafted characters and tone. If anything, this film is a lesson to what the studio did wrong with Snyder originally, and also what they apparently did with David Ayer during the original Suicide Squad film. It makes me even more curious to see the Ayer cut, knowing that the creative control that he had on the film was very limited. And James Gunn himself supports what Ayer has been saying recently, while also paying tribute to him with his latest version of the film. But now we come to what makes James Gunn's The Suicide Squad so good. On the surface, it seems like this film is more of the same. Once again, a group of incarcerated super criminals are sent on a lethally dangerous Black Ops mission. But the thoroughly stylized and R-rated movie lives up to its name in gruesome fashion. While we've come to expect costumed heroes and villains to have plot armor so that they can show up again for the next franchise installment, the characters of the Suicide Squad enjoy no such luxury. It's made abundantly clear that no one in its colourful cast is safe, and that immediately gives the comic book film a rare sense of danger, like the good days of Game of Thrones where any scene might have been your favourite character's last. And when these characters are killed off, it's not pretty, as director James Gunn taps into his old gory days, with characters not just going down, but getting sliced, incinerated, and exploding with blood and guts galore. Sometimes the over-the-top deaths are done for shock value, sometimes for humour, and sometimes to pull our heartstrings. But if they do inspire some kind of significant reaction, then the film is obviously working really well. And let's not forget that James Gunn did write Zack Snyder's gory horror film Dawn of the Dead a few decades back. So it's only a full circle moment of the two filmmakers excelling in the comic book genre this year. And with The Suicide Squad being the prime example discussed in this video, the film allows James Gunn to lean into everything that he does best. With full creative control, he masterfully weaves action, drama, humour, violence and moments of darkness, leading to something more ingenious at work here that we haven't really seen as effective in his other films. Gunn's hyperactive camera movement punches at an unrelenting pace, with the movie opening on a savage and also hilarious beach assault that plays like Saving Private Ryan but more insane. It escalates through inventive action set pieces filled with various jaw-droppingly gory and amusing moments to a climax that goes far and beyond the norm. The Suicide Squad is far from a stream of self-aware gags in the style of Joss Whedon, another director who crossed between DC and Marvel, and whose jokey tone in films like Avengers: Age of Ultron and Justice League threatened to undercut the material. In contrast, James Gunn's jet-black sense of humour oozes from a serious, even angry foundation. The movie takes shots at very big and serious themes, raging against Western imperialism, American foreign policy, and government deception as it makes reference to interference in foreign countries. In this nihilistic world, Gunn finds sympathy for the villains, inviting viewers to feel compassion and empathy for even the biggest rampaging monsters and goofiest comic book characters. The silliest and scariest are still just people with problems, as seen with Ratcatcher, being invested with genuine hope and heartbreak, and with Polka Dot Man, whose very silly powers are reimagined as genuine body horror. Gunn is also wonderfully interested in the little people in the background. Even the most anonymous extras get little details sketched in to make them feel like a person, even if that detail is swiftly followed by a gory and horrifying death. The squad's backroom staff also bring the entertainment and a level of importance based on the film's post-credit scene. They even enjoy a spot of revenge for their boss's rather harsh treatment of the support staff in the 2016 film. And as a final note, the production is pretty fantastic. For many of the scenes in the first two acts of the film, Gunn and his team have used practical effects that make the whole situation on the island feel that much more visceral and visually spectacular. There's of course visual effects for a certain giant starfish, but a lot of the primary action scenes involve real explosions and effects. There's no over-the-top green screen effects or even computer imagery that just looks like a video game. You can tell that all around, the people working on this film had so much fun, but also cared about what they were making. And this just makes you think even more about the filmmakers I mentioned previously. Imagine how they felt when a studio interfered with their vision and tried to use effects and filmmaking techniques that just look horrible or completely out of place for the tone of the characters. And imagine what we could have got with those films initially if they had the freedom they needed. James Gunn mixes and matches who interacts with who, freely playing with timelines and story structure while he's at it, with his razor-sharp script yielding a string of hilarious exchanges, whether it be through dialogue or the circumstances Task Force X find themselves in. Everyone gets at least one hero moment, and Gunn puts plenty of time into building the team's bond. If he lets it loosen in the middle, by the time it comes to the final showdown, as Starro moves destructively over the island, he's made his senseless band make sense as a team. He doesn't make them good guys, and he keeps a feeling that they're doing this less for the sake of the world than because they're really enjoying it. On paper, the Suicide Squad could be reductively boiled down to Guardians of the Galaxy with an R rating, and it would have been easy for Gunn to craft exactly that movie with the Suicide Squad. But instead, he's delivered a brutally violent, joyously irreverent, and foul-mouthed piece of work, but one that still manages to create both dramatic and emotional stakes. He does so while unleashing both his and his team's talents to the fullest, and the end result is a spectacularly bonkers movie that you won't believe a studio like Warner Brothers agreed to greenlight, given their reputation for interference. Now, while I mention a lot of the brilliant aspects of the film, The Suicide Squad isn't a perfect movie, and regardless of critics saying that it's the best comic book film since The Dark Knight, which we've heard countless times over the last 10 years, what I will say is that The Suicide Squad screams a change in the tide for DC. You know that I love Man of Steel, that I really enjoy the Ultimate Cut of Batman v Superman, and again love the Snyder Cut of Justice League. But with previous execs at Warner Brothers giving filmmakers like Snyder less and less control over the years, it's a breath of fresh air for the studio to fully give James Gunn the creative control that he needed to make this film. Having a director's vision at the forefront of a film like this makes everything more impactful. The vision is unique and the goriness and relatability is emphasised when the filmmaking matches that approach. The dark and godly tone of Justice League was oddly placed in the lap of Joss Whedon, and we saw what happened there. The original Suicide Squad was destroyed by the studio and turned into one big music video, sacrificing editing from Christopher Nolan's editor Lee Smith, and many scenes which were shot with drama and character emphasis. Going from that type of management to having a good director have full creative control this time around is what helps to make The Suicide Squad a great movie. It's a lesson that hopefully is now learned, and maybe we will start to see other filmmakers have more creative control and less interference from the studio. Now, don't get me wrong, films of course can turn out bad with creative control. Just look at Wonder Woman 1984 for example, and Patty Jenkins helming the script. But I think in regards to much of the projects I've mentioned in this video, these are examples that have or would most likely have been much better. The Snyder Cut was a hailing example of that, and when it comes to Wonder Woman 1984, at least they trusted the filmmaker to carry out their vision, even if that vision wasn't what many of us wanted from a Wonder Woman sequel. If you trust their pitch, then allow them to carry that out, and this year we've seen nothing but successful examples of that. For me, The Suicide Squad is just behind some of the other DCEU films such as Man of Steel, the BVS Ultimate Cut, the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and the first Wonder Woman. But it's not too far behind some of those, and it makes me wonder what the DCEU would look like if Warner Brothers had given this kind of freedom to some of their other filmmakers. I think we may be turning that corner, and if you look at their upcoming projects, it suggests that they are trying all different types of approaches. We've got the start of a new Batman trilogy from Matt Reeves, which is its own completely separate thing. We've got exciting DCEU projects such as The Flash, Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, and Black Adam. Most of these films are of course connected, but one thing I've noticed is that each film seems to be standing on its own 2 feet and focusing less on building out a continued story, but rather individual great films. They are doing the opposite to Marvel, and this, in my opinion, is a good thing. They need to stand out and keep the genre fresh by bringing uniquely crafted films to the big screen. And even Snyder's DC films had that sensibility to them while also being connected at the same time. But I do hope that the success of the Snyder Cut on streaming has opened another avenue for the DC films, allowing that particular direction to come to life too. Maybe we'll eventually see the Ayer Cut and a Justice League 2 after Discovery's takeover of Warner Brothers. The point being is that with the introduction of their multiverse, Warner Brothers and DC can capitalize on different types of films, ones in multiple universes, and standalone endeavors too. They can satisfy all audiences, and The Suicide Squad may be another example of that direction starting to take place. I can only hope that this is the case, and it does get me excited for what's to come, but as long as they keep riding the wave of quality of the last few films, giving their creators the chances to bring ideas to life their way. I would rather take 2 great director-driven comic book movies a year that are rewatchable like what DC have produced in 2021, over 5 or 6 which are very average and uninventive. But we can only wait and see if Warner Brothers have finally learnt their lesson surrounding creative control. But that was my video essay on why James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is a great DCEU movie, and why I think it's the start of a fresh new direction for the universe and DC films. Like I said, I really hope that down the line this does inspire Warner Brothers to give more creative freedom to their filmmakers to make the movie they want to make, especially with how well both the Snyder Cut and the Suicide Squad have been received this year. Warner Brothers are so unpredictable at this point, but hopefully these examples will show them the value in continuing all of these different universes for DC, and doing so by allowing the filmmakers to make their films. But what do you think of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and how would you like to see Warner Brothers approach their movies down the line? Let me know down below in the comment section. For more breakdown videos on all upcoming films in the DCEU, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.